Hello, there we are. Absolutely love Mondays. Good start here for the crew. Colson, Allen, Derek Bidwell joining me this evening. It's a SportsCage. 3 hours. NFL, we're going into playoffs now. Is the CFL schedule getting released tomorrow? Has anyone else heard that rumor? That's the rumor I got around the mean streets of Regina today. CFL schedule tomorrow. Just a rumor. So don't take it to the bank. But that's what I heard. What do we got for you today? 3 hours. I want people to send in their preference when it comes to the CFL schedule. What do you really love as Rider fans? Do you love that Labor Day game? Do you like Friday night games? Do you like Saturday night games? Sunday afternoon games? Thursday night games? I think Thursday night games would be at the bottom of the ask for Rider fans, except unless you live like literally 5-minute walk from the stadium. Then you're in good shape. Other than that everyone's going to drive on a Thursday, it's like, tough. I want people to chime in on that. Capital Ford Lincoln, Saskatchewan's number one Ford retailer. 936-6262 is the number that you can text. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk some World Junior Hockey from the side of the Americans. The United States wins the gold again at the World Junior Hockey Tournament. What makes their U.S. development program so solid, so successful? We're going to be joined by ESPN's Greg Wyshynski. He knows everything when it comes to American hockey, and I am really curious to ask some questions and pick his brain, Bidsy, about this U.S. development program that we hear so much up here in Canada about. Heck, if you got a question for him, send it our way. We will ask him. Hour 2, Eric Francis. He's on his way to Southern California on assignment. He's no dummy. He's not picking the Buffalo Detroit swing. He's going, I'll head with the team when they go to SoCal. Eric Francis will join us in hour 2. It's that time of the year in Saskatchewan, and even if you're just like me, like the casual curling fan, Bidsy, are you a casual curling fan?
Yeah, I would say you could probably put me in that category. Sure. Yeah, I tend to get into it more at the end of the year. It just seems a little bit early for me. I ramp up my focus, if you will, or my attention towards curling, with the Scotties and the Briar and all that. But some of these Pinty's ones, maybe some of these Bonspiel.
Like you don't curl in a men's league, or you don't have a membership to the Granite Curling Club up there in Saskatoon or anywhere, do you? Granite actually closed down.
Yeah, the Granite is actually pickleball now. So
that's pickleball venue.
Big pickleball venue there. They still run a really good, as you like to say, they run a really good concession there at the Granite. It's actually 11-2 now is the Granite restaurant. Now, apparently they run the best wonton soup in the city.
This is going to go sideways right here. How many minutes into this show? We are 11 minutes after the hour, so we're probably legit 4 minutes into the show.
5 minutes.
Here we go. The Granite Curling Club, which is now a pickleball venue in Saskatoon, runs a solid wonton soup, you're saying?
Yep, they run a really good wonton. Cops are always there. It's good when it's full of officers in there.
I am not going to give the name of this place for free plug purposes. There is a bowling alley in Saskatoon that I caught wind of over the holidays, because I was up there for a week that felt like a month and a half. And this bowling alley apparently has some of the best food in the city. Yes, I know it sounds a little ridiculous and I'm overselling it, but it is legit. And I think we're talking Oriental food as well. Secondly, I will give these guys a plug. I was in Warman, Saskatchewan.
Okay. I was going to say really quickly, though, the place that you were going to say, and I won't say it, but you and I would think we're talking about a little bit over the holidays. Anyway, they advertise with us here, so they're.
Oh well, you can give them a plug. Then go nuts. Okay. We're all the same family. Yeah. We are family. Was that Sly and the who sings that song?
We are family. Oh, that. Yeah. So it's Eastview Bowl in Saskatoon. I think we're talking, and Reds.
Yes.
Is the restaurant lounge that they have there. They just finished redoing and renovating the bowling alley, Eastview Bowl in Saskatoon, and Reds is one of the things that they redid. And real nice, real good spot. Yeah, real good food.
I can't believe I haven't tried it, but I will bounce back next time I'm up there, and you and I will have to go. Okay, so back to this Warman story. Okay. Up there yesterday, Regina Pat Blues, not a great performance. That's okay. 1-1 on the road trip. They have a concession there, and we got to get supper for after the game. And everyone's like, oh, you got to try their noodle bowls. You got to try their noodle bowls. I'm like, no, I'm just going to get it here from the concession at the hockey rink. They're like, yeah, the noodle bowls, they're amazing. And I'm like, what? What year is it?
Is it at the old Norman Arena?
No. That place, the deep fryer and the grill there, if they could tell stories. But no, it was it's the Legends Center or whatever. Amazing rink, amazing facility. Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah. So Noodle Bowl concession there. Man, did this go sideways? Like I said.
I know. And I'm going to add in just one more thing before we move on. You mentioned the Legends Arena in Warman. If I won the lottery,
how much though? Right.
Well, enough that if it went sideways,
give a crap money. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, I win $10 million. I don't.
Yeah.
20 million.
Sure.
I would 1,000% put an SJHL team in that arena. I think it is the perfect size for it. I don't know if there's enough support there for it, maybe, but I love that arena. And if there was a spot for an SJHL team closer to Saskatoon, Warman being almost in Saskatoon, that's what I would.
If Derek Bidwell won the lottery, he is looking at the SJHL, an SJHL franchise for entertainment. Some people would buy a golf course. Some people would move as fast to somewhere warm as possible. Other people would donate it to some, let's be honest, some would get donated. You would help out your relatives. I'm sure you'd still do that. But you're right up at the top of your list is purchase an SJHL franchise for Warman, Saskatchewan.
That's up there. I don't know if it's right at the top, but it's what I thought about. I just thought that would be, I would like to own a sports team and do all this crazy marketing, like minor league baseball, Saskatoon Berry stuff they did here was great. I would do all this fun type of marketing and thing. It would be a fun project. I wouldn't necessarily live here, but I'd come back.
Then why not purchase some sort of minor league team or junior team wherever you're going to live so you can be hands-on? You could go into the locker room and be like, hey, there's the owner, Derek. We love him. Hey, like
another 48-pack.
He's got a noodle bowl.
He's excited. He just had lunch. He had a noodle.
You learn something about your buddies all the time, right? I learned today that if Bidsy wins the lottery, he's going SJ team in Warman. And by the way, I know there's a bunch of you out there right now swearing at me. I know it was Sister Sledge who sang "We Are Family." Fantastic song, and you're gonna be singing it all day now. It's an earworm.
Jammed in there. Yeah, it's on rotate.
Released March 18th, 1979. Title track, Sister Sledge breakout album, Celebrity, the Sister's Sister. We Are Family. Yeah, that was a good song. So, you guys want to break already? We're just getting into concession talk. Bowling alley concession talk on the All New SportsCage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take a break because we got Greg Wyshynski coming by over the telephone. You got questions for him? What do you? I also want to know what do you want for the rider schedule if it gets released tomorrow? What do people in Saski? What do the SportsCage listeners want from a CFL schedule. I tell you right now, I'm a Friday night game guy, especially now that we do this show. And again, for how long this lasts, I have no idea. But as long as we do this show, I like the Friday night games because we get to do the show from the stadium for the most part. Unless I'm on holidays, which I desperately need.
And being right there.
I was just talking to somebody. I feel like I didn't have any holiday this, and I'm not complaining. Don't feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
But I went straight from work to work, and in the middle of there, I cleaned up everyone getting sick in the house. I'm exhausted.
And Dolores's temperature.
Dolores's basement carpet took a absolute beating over the holidays. Not good stuff. It is the All New SportsCage. We are streaming at sportscage.com and on the mighty 620 CKRM. We are back on Mondays. It is for Keln Solar in Lumsden, Saskatchewan. Getting water from your dugout or wherever it needs to go without electricity. Visit the pros at Keln Solar if you got a livestock operation. It's Barney, Shynkaruk, Derek Bidwell, Colson, Allen with you on this Monday. I don't know how many of you would have watched the World Juniors after Canada bowed out, lost to Czechia. There I go. I get it again. Czechia. Why do I add the N?
What did you say?
No need to add an N. That it's all this bowling and concession and wonton soup talk. Flustered for the next 3 hours. But anyway, if you watched it, that game yesterday, I didn't get a chance to I watched the highlights. Kid was playing, like I said, in Mormon. NFL games galore, everything. Americans pull it out again. Gold medal around their neck. Many thought Finland, the way the game was going, was going to walk away with it, but the U.S. does it. So I'm sitting last night and sitting this morning thinking, I'm like, I would really like to talk about the United States National Team Development Program when it comes to hockey. And I know we talk about it a lot up here. And sometimes we talk about things that we shouldn't. Like we know, but we don't. I was texting some of my buddies that I played with down in the States. I'm like, what do you guys know about it? They didn't know much about it either. All I know is there's one Saskatchewan boy at this thing now. Dean Boyker's boy from like Watson, Saskatchewan. He went from the Saskatoon Blazers to the U.S. National Development Team this year, which I don't think we'll ever see again. I know. I'm watching your face on the stream too, Bidsy. It's crazy. Yeah. So I said, let's reach out to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN, who seems to know a lot about hockey and definitely American hockey. And Greg says this morning, yep, I'll come on. No problem. Love Sasky. Love the weather up there. Love the people. Greg, thanks so much for hopping on the Sports Cage again.
And I, too, love talking about the dominance of American hockey globally. That's also a shared trait between you and I. Listen, obviously, like back-to-back World Juniors, they've won now 3 out of 5 years. It's a real good run for this program, and so happy to talk about it. And we'll not do it at the expense of my friends in Canada. How about that?
Yeah. You know what? I started reading. It started in 1996, so that is a while ago now. And how do you explain to people, Greg, that probably aren't as educated as people in and around the Michigan area, definitely, or in the hockey scope down in the States? How do you explain what this program is and why it's been so successful?
Well, it's not just the program, which obviously does a really good job of identifying young athletes that are playing hockey. I mean, you know, the one of the mantras of USA Hockey is basically the moment that you put your skates on the ice for the first time, they're going to hopefully have you within some level of their program to foster that love and to foster that talent to the point where then all of a sudden you're 17, 18 years old and playing in a development program. But I mean, it's also kind of the development of this pipeline at the same time that all of the stuff that we saw, and it's not a coincidence, you said, you know, the mid-90s, all the stuff that we've saw about expanding the NHL's footprint in America into quote-unquote non-traditional markets, the growth of the game, the growth of great American-born talents. I think the entire generation of young offensive players that we see now, from Matthew Tkachuk to Jack Hughes, owes a debt to Patrick Kane. All of this stuff has happened over the last couple decades, and it's allowed the USA Hockey to fill this pipeline with really talented young players from a larger swath of the country than, like you indicated before, just hitting Massachusetts, Minnesota, and Michigan over and over again like they had been for decades.
Bidsy's mic's not on, guys.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
They got me on now? Okay, yeah. They bumped me up. Greg, Derek Bidwell here in Saskatoon. Now, first off, couldn't you have left us, you Americans, couldn't you have left us the World Juniors? Couldn't you have just left us that? Now you're taking that over. But obviously there's been some success, like you said, in the last few years with the American team juggernaut in this program. Is this all go way back to when Wayne Gretzky went to LA and his influence on American hockey and the trickle-down effect has us to where we are right now?
I mean, there's a certain amount of that. I mean, obviously, like the success of hockey in California then begot the success of hockey in Florida, and then all of a sudden you've got a team in Nashville. And, there was sort of that trickle-down effect of Gretzky going to play for the Kings. That certainly, I think, sparked some of the expansion that we saw in the 1990s and into the 2000s. But ultimately, you have to also give both USA Hockey and the NHL credit because it's not simply just like there's a team in my neighborhood now and I'm going to go play hockey. It's also creating opportunity for these young athletes to play hockey. I was going back and forth with a Canadian before on social media. I know that's a rarity for me, and they were talking about the population of the United States versus the population of Canada, and only now is the U.S. turning the corner. And honestly, part of that is trying to get our best and brightest athletes to try out hockey versus try out basketball or football or baseball. But it's also climate. I mean, you have to create an infrastructure for hockey to thrive and create opportunities for, athletes to play at a somewhat elite level in a lot of places in this country that don't really have ice, right? So it's a lot of that infrastructure that's grown over the last 20 to 25 years, and all of it has sort of pointed to a greater number of our talented young athletes choosing to pick up a stick and try their hand at hockey and then falling in love with the sport.
So the program itself in Michigan, and it's really groomed for the ages, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. So the World Junior team, a lot of these kids, if not all of them, would have been in this program like the last 3 years. Now they're off playing either Major Junior or they're playing NCAA. So they kind of grab this program and they have an under 17 and under 18 team in Michigan where they get billeted out, they live, they're together, they play together. I don't think they're in a league anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. How do you talk about that program and what makes that work in Michigan?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And so, the competition is kind of from within, amongst the elite players that are there. And, I think it's no different than when an NHL team wants to have its minor league team as close as possible geographically, right? You want all those players together. You want to be able to have your eyes on them at all times. And I think the centralization of the national team program in Michigan has really helped, them foster these young players and really kind of, make the training intensive and also make the training uniform. So it's not, a kid playing in California who's not necessarily getting the same sort of guidance and coaching as they would if they were just in the national development program. But then, like you said, the next step for most of these kids, it seems, is NCAA hockey, which, again, over the last 20 to 25 years has certainly grown in prominence. It's grown in competitiveness. And if you look at the roster of the World Junior team that just won for the U.S., I mean, you're seeing just a ton of kids that play in the NCAA, whether it's, Ryan Leonard from BC or Z Bouillem from Denver. And and so on and so forth. So it's really kind of come together where you have this pipeline on the development team program feeding into the NCAA, and then we'll see what happens to the NCAA with this new rule that makes the major junior kids eligible. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to shake out, but for now, it's been a pretty reliable pipeline for the Americans.
Yeah, that will be interesting, Greg, to see how that part affects, of course, moving forward. The players playing in different American systems. So is this a system where these young players apply to be a part of, or are they going out and almost scouting to see who they want to be a part of it, or is it a little bit of both?
From what I understand, it's an invitation-based thing, and don't quote me on that. I know I'm saying it on a major media platform, and don't quote me on that. It's kind of silly to say, but I haven't necessarily done the granular work to figure out the application process. But from what I gather, from what I remember in my coverage of the development program over the years, it is one of those deals where they're identifying young players and they're inviting them to be part of the program. And then obviously over time, there's a weeding out process and all that stuff. They just kind of, identify the best and brightest and go from there. But it's one of the best things about the growth of USA Hockey is that ability to kind of like go out to, the relationships they have obviously with the programs around the country. They know who to identify at a young age and keep an eye on. But it's also just their ability to now go throughout the United States into all these little pockets to find these really talented players that, in a different era and in a different growth size for USA Hockey might not have been identified otherwise.
Greg Wyshynski joining us from ESPN here on the SportsCage. You called us a major media platform here. We did start the show by talking about wonton soup and noodle bowls at hockey rink concessions. So thanks for that. I want to talk a little bit, and I read this story on David Carl, who was coaching the World Junior team again to a gold medal, and his story is actually very interesting as he had to retire. I think it was back in 2008, before the NHL entry draft, and he was going to be a high pick because of a heart issue, an enlargement of the heart muscle. Then he goes into coaching, and that was one thing that I was reading a lot on social media as the tournament went on, and everyone was pointing the finger at the Canadian coaching staff and management staff and yada, 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 just because that's what we do. And then everyone was talking about who's this young guy behind the bench of the U.S. team, and it seems like they, relate to him, and he just seems, and we don't know the inner workings. But Greg, how much do you know, and how cool is the story of David Carl?
Yeah, it's an amazing story, like you said. I mean, just that awesome second chapter for a player that for whatever reason, and in this case it was health, couldn't make it to the show. I mean, to have this level of success in your second chapter of hockey life is amazing. I will, by the way, put the blame on coaching and management in Canada. It was a disaster on both fronts, and I could see why they're casting a jealous eye at the Americans. But Carl was there for all three of these wins. He's won national championships with Denver. Yeah. I've covered him at the Frozen Four and as a national team coach, and he's a really remarkable guy. He's got an amazing comportment. He's got a real connection with these young players. He has been contacted by NHL teams. The New Jersey Devils reached out to him last year before hiring Sheldon Keefe as their head coach to maybe just pick his brain, maybe just gauge his interest, but definitely reached out to him as part of the process. And that's going to happen more and more. I mean, he's had an amazing amount of success. And when you have that, there's a very good chance that he might be able to skip the usual, coaching tree, if you will, of, you're a college coach, then you're an assistant coach in the NHL, then you become a head coach. It wouldn't shock me to see him coaching in the league. But the other part about it too, though, with Carl is that he's made it kind of clear that he's extremely happy where he is right now, and that's not a lie. Like, he's extremely happy being a successful college coach. He loves college hockey. He's got a really good landing spot in Denver. I think he likes being a national team coach. I think he's going to wait for his opportunity. Now, for me personally, I've always thought that opportunity, based on the fact that he likes to live in Denver, is to eventually succeed Jared Bednar with the Colorado Avalanche. I don't know if that'll come to fruition, but I wouldn't be shocked if all the noise he's made about trying to, stay in the area for the benefit of his family eventually manifests itself as maybe becoming an NHL coach in Colorado.
Bednar, good Sasky boy right there in Colorado. Bidsy, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, Greg, to expand a little on what you said about the Canadian coaching staff and how you felt that they maybe should get a little bit of this spotlight of blame, if you will, of Canada being ousted again in the quarterfinal.
Well, it's just the practice thing was nonsensical. I feel like from a tactical standpoint, the coaching was misguided, but I also think that it fed into what the management did insofar as trying to build the team for, a tournament played 10 years ago versus a tournament played now. It's one of the more interesting things about like the national team building for both the Canadians and the Americans in the Four Nations tournament and then coming up in the Olympics is the idea of, what does your bottom six really have to look like in a short tournament? Like, do we need to keep building teams in a more traditional way where you're looking at role players, or can we kind of rethink it? The Americans used to do this thing where they would go and try to grab guys that could like win a face-off for, basically an all-star tournament. And now they finally wised up. And if you look at the Four Nations tournament roster, it's guys like, Chris Kreider and Brock Nelson and others that can score 30 goals, but also do the thing that you need them to do down the lineup. So, again, I wasn't enamored with the way that Canada was built. I certainly wasn't enamored with the way they were coached. And I, with due respect to the usual, excuse mechanisms of the guys that aren't playing here, that are in the NHL, and all that other stuff, the pressure on these kids, all that other stuff. Like, I just thought, the criticisms that were levied at the way this team was put together were extremely warranted.
It's funny because we got a text message in on the Capital Ford Lincoln text line. One of the text messages was the way that Canadians that were wired a lot of times. I don't say we because I don't put myself in that boat where it's like, well, we could have had two teams at this thing. It's like, yeah, you know what though? No one cares. And that's not how it works. I said, you don't need 2,000 kids that are good at hockey anymore at that age. You need 30. Look at Latvia, right? You just need a small group. The other thing, Greg, and I don't know what your take is on this as an American, but I also feel, and I said this to my buddies from down there that we were chatting together, and I said, we can't scare anybody anymore. You can't intimidate teams by running them through the boards. Like, that hockey is gone. The game has changed so much. Like, if you hit anyone, you're getting a hit to the head or you're getting a major penalty. So that is the problem, because at this tournament, we would watch Canada just Dion Phaneuf and Jordan Tutu and run around and hammer everybody. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, and you also have teams like Czechia that can also take a punch. Like they're giving it as much as they're getting it now these days too. And the intimidation goes beyond the physicality. I mean, there also was that air of superiority that surrounded every Canadian team. And obviously in World Juniors, I don't think it's necessarily there anymore. I don't think the minute they step on the ice, the other team is cowering anymore. I think those days are done, especially with the way that other nations have caught up to Canada. I'm interested to see exactly what happens in the international play between the U.S. and Canada at Four Nations and the Olympics, because I do think in the past, when the Canadians step on the ice and it's, you see the uniform and you see Sidney Crosby and you say to yourself, how are we going to beat this team? There was certainly a lot of that, I think, for the U.S.-Canada rivalry in the past and probably for other teams as well. And now that the Americans have at least some of the offensive weaponry that you need to really hang with a power like Canada, be it the Tkachuk brothers or the Hughes brothers or Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel, like, it is going to be interesting to see exactly how sturdy the American spine is, let's say, when they step on the ice and look across and it's Sid and McDavid and all that. Like, I think other versions of this team would have completely just turned to jelly. And I do wonder if the Americans kind of have more of a stiff upper lip about their chances in a game against Canada, because they finally have this generation of players that can maybe stand toe-to-toe with what Canada puts out there.
It's funny you mentioned that, because on the bus ride from Kindersley to Saskatoon with a bantam hockey team, we watched the 2010 golden game between Americans, and that was such an intense hockey game, and the Americans were not backing down when they came down in that one. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting what happens in the Four Nations and of course in Italy, and I'm sure we'll be able to chat with you as that gets closer. Are you going to be in Montreal for game 1 by chance of the Four Nations?
I actually just sent out a couple weeks ago that I'm not. We have a large staff here at ESPN, so a couple of other reporters will be covering that. But I'm going to cover all the games in Boston, which hopefully ends with the U.S. and Canada getting around too for the championship this time. But I'll be watching. My colleague Arda Okal and I have a live post-game show after the USA-Canada game that we'll be hosting. So it's going to be great, man. I really hope it's going to. I mean, I tend to believe, and I've been saying this for weeks, that, you know, when we talk about the casual sports fan in the U.S. and what resonates with them with regard to hockey, there's like 3 things. It's like the Stanley Cup, Wayne Gretzky, and USA-Canada rivalry. And so my hope is that when they do meet at Bell Center and the hype is there, that it's going to become a real moment here in the States to have people tune in to watch a game that has been several years in the making, as all these young guys have come into the league and we haven't had the Olympics and all this other stuff. Like, I really can't wait for the game. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I think it is too. I think it's going to be awesome. Greg, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for making some time today. And then I think I'm going to reach out. We'll have to catch up right before the Four Nations and chat about that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Right on. From ESPN, senior writer Greg Wyshynski joining us here on the Sports Cage. Good insight there to the old American team, the American machine. We can start calling them that now. You brought up a good point. Yeah. It's like, hey, we used to have junior hockey. It used to be ours. Not so much. Not even a medal again.
No, guys, you had to go and take that from us as well.
It's like a rash.
Kind of hard thing now, yeah. Now they got it.
But like Arash Madani, you know, we got him on tomorrow, like we talked about. Canada is now excelling in soccer, in basketball, in those different sports. So, hey, it's the way it's all working. And if you're a firm believer in numbers, in the old numbers game, then the bigger countries are bound to get better. We talked about curling last week, and it's like how the Koreans are unbelievable at curling, and China's coming on in women's curling. Like, it's just more it's numbers. There's more of them. You times us by 10, and you got to marry. Then the other thing about American hockey is, until you go there and you like live there and immerse to it, your the Canadian cockiness goes away quick, because these Boston kids, these Detroit kids, the Philadelphia kids, Alaska, Michigan, Minnesota, all that, they are as good, and as the Boston kids are as hard-nosed as anybody from up here. And then now you're adding the Dallas kids and the California kids. Dustin Wolf, Arizona, Austin Matthews. That's the numbers game.
Yeah. And we're going to go on down this is a debate for another day, but the curling thing, you talk about, okay, you know, there's all these, you know, curling powerhouses and solid curling teams from South Korea, China, and there's Ireland. And, well, part of that, though, is because we've allowed them and invited them to Canada to play in our Pinties tournaments and these other different types of tournaments.
Yeah.
To train here, play against the best, which is us still, I believe. And that's really brought up their game, though, because they now are training and competing against the best, and that's brought up their best rings as well. But yes, we're no longer just this Canada hockey, we dominate anymore. It's a much broader scope, which is great for the game internationally. But it's not the same, and it's not the same type of game as you mentioned, where when it was more physical, maybe more of a clutch and grab and a physical type of game hockey was. Maybe we could, because maybe we were bigger and tougher. But as you said, it's a different game now, and plus these Boston kids and kids from certain areas, they're not pushovers anymore either. And I have actually brought this up really quickly too. When we lost to Latvia, I said to my dad, "How big is Latvia?" Like, Where is Latvia? I don't even. I mean, my dad brought out the globe from the den, the spinning globe, and he pointed it to me. There, it's way up there. It's only this big. It's very small. Like,
you guys went on how big it is on a globe. You didn't punch in Google population. No, we're going off the size it is on the globe. What is that? Get out the ruler.
My dad brought out the globe, so we went with that. But yeah, Latvia's not that big. But like you said, they just needed 30 guys with heart. They didn't need 2,000.
The goaltending, man, that was
goaltending in this tournament was really on point.
Yeah, it was really good. And then that Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic, they had 9 kids, something like that play in the Western Hockey League. So they don't give a rip. They ain't scared. They're on the Iron Lung to Prince George and Prince Albert in the freezing cold, playing just as much as we are now. So hey, we're not the boogeyman or men anymore.
No, we're not. But another example you could say of
us being welcoming.
Us being welcoming, but them becoming great at a sport, in this case hockey, before we talk about curling, by competing here against us.
Yeah, it's like us going to play soccer in South America or basketball
and then we make
somewhere.
Yeah, and then we make up the national team, yeah.
And then we get better. Man, there's part of me wants to spend the next, what do we got left, 2 hours talking about politics, but we can't on the show, or we shouldn't. Oh, what a wild day in Ottawa. Let's take a quick break. It is the All New SportsCage. We are streaming. You can watch it at sportscage.com. Thanks to everyone who's subscribed. Got us well over 1,000 now. We're tracking to 2,000. Someone's getting a noodle bowl when we hit 2,000. and we're always on 620 CKRM. On Mondays for Keln Solar, anything you need solar-wise, commercial or residential, Keln Solar, and their team in Lumsden, Saskatchewan. We get Capital Ford Lincoln text line. You're always welcome to chime in, 936-6262. Leonard. Haven't heard from Leonard I guess Leonard was back at her last week as well. Our hockey players are still the best. They just can't switch from physical style of hockey to a more finesse in these world competitions. So maybe there's something. I don't know, Leonard. I don't know enough about you, Leonard. We've never broke bread together, as they say, or had a bowling alley wonton soup. But the hockey has changed. And you see it in Pee Wee, especially Bantam, where there's body contact now. They do not want hitting and big hits. It is boarding penalty. It is hit to the head penalty. They just want that out. So, yeah, we will have to adjust. And let's be honest, we still have skilled players. I hate the argument that we could... somebody else chimed in, I think maybe it was Trev, that we could have 2 teams there. It's like the Olympics, it's like, we could send 2 teams to the Olympics.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Well, the one that can
Americans, win. They could send 2 or 3 basketball teams to the Olympics too, but if we were ever going to give them a run and beat them, we wouldn't want to hear that. We'd just be like, no, you put your best team out and we'll put our best out and let's go and play. So, and there's a lot to unpack, and it was disappointing for Canada. It was more, the better word would be embarrassing for Canadian hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to throw that word out there when you're talking
I use it a lot.
These young fellas. Well, so you've used it to describe this a lot. Yeah, disappointing for sure, 100%, maybe a bit embarrassing. Like, it's quarterfinals, man, right? Like, we had ousted in the quarterfinals 2 years in a row.
We're not even playing for a medal. We're not even playing for a medal. Like, we are that minor team that lost out Saturday afternoon, and we still have hotels booked because we thought we were playing till Sunday, and now the parents are scrambling. Are we going to keep these rooms? What time was checkout? Can I just pay for half of a day so we can get back home? It's like, no, you're pot committed because you were supposed to play until Sunday. And
so now it's the water slide day.
Parents are going to go get buckled in the hospitality room, which we hope we still have. And the kids can hit the slides. And it was just a big waste of money because we lost out too early.
Exactly. Yeah. Back in the day, in our day, the parents' room just was filled with Du Maurier butts and lots of whiskey bottles and whatever.
I go back and I would have loved to see parent hospitality rooms from the 1980s and compare it to now and what's going on. And now that I see it around, and it's like, there's the guy that can't handle his alcohol. And then there's, the guy that's or girl going out and just ripping darts constantly. The noise complaints come in. There's always flirting going on.
Not right.
Amongst these hockey parents. Oh, yeah. You hear stories all the time. It's like, oh, yeah. And then fights.
Michelle,
sometimes when there's
into it.
When there's a real good one, then you get into, did you hear what happened when they were in Swift Current? They fought. Two guys, same team, fought finally. It's like, oh, that's cool. Psycho, but cool.
That's
embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't recall any hearing about any scraps. I suppose it probably never filtered down to the kids to say that a couple of the parents got at it. But I know there was a lot of consumption, a lot of libations were had, because I know that there were certain days, the parents were like, "Oh, look at Mr. So-and-so. He's got a giant Gatorade," or he is rehydrating. He does not look very good. This sort of thing.
It was like pre-80s. Parents weren't drinking Gatorade. They were just toughing out a hangover the best way. They just old-fashioned black coffee from the concession. That's how they were getting through it. And then it was like you could just especially the coaches. I'm not saying coaches nowadays. Coaches nowadays pretty buttoned up. But it was always the coaches you could smell. They got into it last night. Yeah, I know. It's awesome, and it's the same everywhere. Every country's got the hockey parents, and that's where I think we are as a country. Yeah, we're some soul searching.
I was just going to say back to really quickly as well, too. I remember with that Latvia game, I was watching it. I started off watching it off my parents' house, and my dad's like, Ray said, "Your hockey team doesn't look very good tonight," talking about Canada. And I said, "Oh, don't worry. It'll be 1-1 right now or whatever, and it'll be 7-1 for Canada right away. This is the most anticlimactic game. What's the point?" And this was me. I honestly thought, Canada versus Latvia. What's the point of it? I was like, it's going to be 9-1. What is even the point of this? And then the next day, I stopped by my parents' house over Christmas, right? And Dad's like, "Did you see? Your team was not very good last night. I'll tell you that. Holy cow! Penalties and what? Oh my God!" Like,
listen, Ray. Here's your record of your Blue Jays last year. Beat it.
Yeah. So my dad loves the World Juniors, though. This year more than even many other years, like he was just really, really into it. And even when Canada was out, that disappointed him. But he saw it through, though. He saw it through. He watched all the way through, even once Canada was out. I wonder what, did you hear what, as far as numbers or attendance went? Like, that can't be great for the, Ottawa, right? You're on the host committee.
I think.
No. Is everything pre-sold?
Yeah, you would have so many things pre-sold. The TV numbers, which I don't know if they came out. I'm sure they did. But again, I don't put a lot of stock in TV. I don't put a lot of stock in TV numbers anymore because it's like 40% of Canada doesn't have cable or satellite. It's 2025 now. Like it's all aftermarket or gray market or IPTV. That's what it is. If you have cable, or if you're paying monthly for cable these days and you're under the age of 70, you're in the hard minority.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I have cable.
Do you still get the paper delivered?
I get the paper delivered, and I get I still Be Kind Rewind. I take back I rewind my VHSs before I just got cable because I can just throw money around, right? Like the cable's so cheap, I just throw money around. I just get it for the sports, man. I just get it for TSN, Sportsnet. I
might have to show you a few things the next time we're out for a pint somewhere, because there's other ways to watch sports in this day and age besides cable. Bidsy. Oh yeah, you're still asking where the Vico is when you go to the OK Economy. What's up, Colson?
Yeah. 296,895 is the total attendance over all 29 games, which puts it at the 8th highest in World Juniors history. So pretty good attendance still.
But it was Ottawa that set the record the last time it was there. They blew it out of the water. So what you said, 6th?
8th.
Oh, I would think that's not very good. What can you go through the highest attended?
I'll see if I can find it. The other one that I found, where was it?
I think Ottawa was like the last time it was there. It went to the moon. It's always got to be in Canada, right? Because you're not gonna like Gothenburg, Sweden last year. Like I know, talked to a couple people that went there, and shout out Kurt Kinnischuk, and we even talked to him on the program here, and it was awesome. It was cool, and it was well represented. But it ain't like, because we're crazy for it here. It's junior hockey. Like I'm curious next year in Minneapolis how it looks. Live SportsCage, obviously. SportsCage on the road.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we created it. Of course, it was a Hockey Canada thing. We created it as a moneymaker, fundraiser for Hockey Canada.
The one interesting number I saw here was 6,177, the highest attended relegation game in history between Germany and Kazakhstan.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool stats. It is an hour in the books here on the SportsCage. Derek Bidwell, Barney Shynkaruk, Colson, and Allen. Hour 2 is going to start off with he's flying to Southern California. It's always fun. A chat with NHL insider Eric Francis for Southie Mainline Chrysler. It is the All New SportsCage streaming at sportscage.com. It is Mondays. SportsCage. Barney Shynkaruk, Derek Bidwell, Colson, and the Sheriff. Allen in the place to be. We got Capital Ford Lincoln text line 936-6262. Getting people, pretty much the same. You know, we can't send role players is another big one. We got to send our best players to play at the World Juniors. Hockey has changed. Hockey isn't tough enough. A lot of those ones in here. Trevor just sent a novel. Trevor, I can't read all that. But he basically just talks about some of the developmental when it comes to like even hockey Regina. And some of it I agree with. When Kellen's in, I think Kellen might be in tomorrow actually co-hosting. Maybe we'll go down this rabbit hole of him on evaluations of kids because it is tricky. And there's a little bit of the political side, just like in any sport, for sure. The one thing that people were talking about last week was the entitlement. And actually had a few guys mention, personally, how it was good. It's like the hockey players, and Arash was one of the guys. I was hoping Arash was going to go down that, and we could kind of chat about it. But he's like, entitled white kids playing hockey. It's like, what? First off, who cares what color they are? Secondly, how are they entitled? Because their parents could take them to tournaments and camps and training and yada, yada, yada. Hey, Potsy, there's football academies, baseball academies, basketball academies with their own gymnasiums, golf academies. Everything now. Every sport is expensive to play. Soccer's not expensive to play. All you need is a pair of runners. Yeah, okay, go show me runner kid that's playing at a high level now at FC Regina or whatever they're called in the indoors.
Yeah.
No, don't lie to yourself. It's not 1980. It's 2025. Every sport is expensive. Every activity. You ever heard about a dance? If you want to put your kids in dance, how much that is?
Cheer. Put them in cheer. See how much
Cheer's another one.
I can speak about that.
Were you in cheer?
I was in no. But my stepdaughter was in cheer, and that was hugely expensive. And it started off, okay, it's going to be here, and then they're going to have a competition in Regina. But next year, her coaches get to vote on where they want to go for competition. And guess where their coaches wanted to vote for
Florida
next year? Mexico. We have to go to Mexico for a competition. And guess what, parents?
Yeah.
You got to pay for the coach.
You got to talk into that mic there. Your mic's cutting out, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And it was a very expensive. And it's just another thing that is where, it is not.
They get to Mexico. There's not even a competition. They're just doing pyramids on the beach. Hey, good job.
Well, that's the thing, though. And you got to be on
Sergio
top
over there is monitoring.
I was going to say, you got to be on top of it, because if you go to the can and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to quickly run to the washroom. You come back out. What? It's over? What? How did we do? What? I came all the way here to Mexico. I missed it. No, I missed it. Jeez. Yeah. It's
All
a
right.
lot going to some of these competitions. It's all.
Go into that lobby bar. That guy at the lobby bar is really fast. I'll be right back. What do you want? I'll get us two. And the other thing with cheer is, and I've never been involved in cheer, so I don't know. But the other thing I hear about cheer is massive concussions. Huge concussion activity / sport. Don't know. I've heard that, possibly read that somewhere. But every sport is so expensive to play. So if that's what you're using the entitlement card on, okay. And then it's like the other thing last week where it was basically like these kids have never had anyone say no to them. That one guy, that's the Fonz that I wanted to go after on social media. My buddy sent it to me. He was like, these kids no one's ever said no to them. All that is, for starters, is a ripoff of the Colin Cowherd rant from ESPN that he always uses about kids in college football. Like the really quality college football quarterbacks and stuff, or basketball even. Yeah, they haven't had a lot of people say no to them, but they're still unbelievable athletes. It's not like they're there just because. Secondly, if you start talking to the Hockey Saskatchewan guys about the U15 team that'll play for the WHL Cup, and they just had the second tryout now, and then the next one is in February in Balgoni, which is supposed to be some of the best hockey to watch around these parts. And then they take 30. So these are the second-year Bantam kids. They take 30, and they kind of train, and they get together over the summer. And then they pick the team late in, I want to say it's like early fall next year. But that's where the Hockey Canada high performance model starts with this, because they give them training regimens, the dieting, a lot of hockey IQ stuff. There is so much to it than just saying, all right, Jimmy, you're going to play hockey and you're going to this tournament, you're going to this camp. And, oh, look, he made it. He made it. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen anymore. Good luck. Go to fantasy world. Yeah, no. Any sport. It's like, yeah, no, he never played football until grade 12, played 1 year in high school, and now he's in the NFL. Yeah, okay.
I know. And there's unfortunate that there aren't stories like that, very much anymore. Remember Ed Jovanovski? I always felt this was a great story. Ed Jovanovski, of course, ex-NHL player, went first overall in the NHL draft, whenever that was. I can't remember what year that was, but
early 90s.
Ed Jovanovski started, I would say early 90s. Ed Jovanovski started playing hockey when he was 11. He started playing hockey when he was 11. That's the first time he was on an organized team. He was 11 years old, and then he turns 18. He's a first overall pick, number 1 pick in the draft. Stuff like that, it's just not the case very much anymore. You're not hearing stories like that. They have to now they're all getting invited to or part of these teams, and it's expensive. And it is how that these kids are brought up now and are eventually not cultivated, but they're grown into these amazing athletes that make it to the next level or the professional level. It just starts earlier, and it's just expensive. And there's just not a lot of stories of somebody just having natural athleticism and just making it.
Colson?
It's going to be harder in college football too, because they're dropping the roster sizes. I think it's this next season. So roster limits, we're used to that in professional leagues, but they're dropping it to 105, which is about 25 less than the average. So all your redshirt players that are
no more Rudies,
they're going to be gone too. So
yeah, there's a perfect example of how people think real life works. Is a movie like Rudy. What year did Rudy come out? It would have been in the 90s as well. Please say it. Please say it was the 90s.
Yeah, no kidding.
Colson's looking.
Story was
trying to spell it.
Yeah,
Rudy Rudiger. R-U-D-Y.
Rudy.
Yep.
Rudy.
Sounds like you're saying with a T.
Not Ruby, not the Kenny Rogers song, which I wish we could play on this program, but we can't.
Rudy story. Yeah.
Ruby, don't take your love to town. It's a sad story, by the way. We're trying to kill time here while Colson looks it up.
93.
93. There we go. Right on.
Speaking of killing time, though, Eric Francis has a plane to catch. We should go to him.
Yeah, we should go chat with our friend Eric Francis for Southie Mainline Chrysler, new king of trucks in Southie, Saskatchewan.
It's time to talk hockey on the All New SportsCage with NHL analyst Eric Francis. Brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive every time, guaranteed.
It is Eric Francis time, brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler. Huge savings, $25,000 off remaining 2024 inventory. That's a heck of a deal. He's joining us from the Calgary airport. I presume on your way to Ottawa to celebrate or to cry about things that happened there today?
I'm just going to head down to the nation's capital, throw my hat in the ring, and see if I can get some votes. I don't know. I don't know if it's a long shot, but I can tell you I'm a little bit more popular in Calgary than the previous guy was. That's for sure. And that's not to suggest I'm popular at all.
You might win, kind of like my running for mayor in Regina last year. I said I'm going to run on $25 green fees at all municipal golf courses and no hockey sticks over $100. You got to run on that, and you might get some hockey votes anyway.
You're hilarious. Look at those two platforms. But that's like in grade school when you'd run on, like, I'm going to put root beer in the fountains. You know, these are impossible dreams. But hey, Trump got in by lying about everything. So you know what? Why don't we?
You're going to California to watch hockey. I want to go back because I haven't talked to you face to face since the Max tournament wrapped up, also known as the Circle K. You got a chance to watch young Maddox Schultz, who we have here in Regina. I presume a lot of Pat Canadian games starting this week are going to be fairly full for $10 now that his name's been out there. Eric, it was his coming out party, and you were at that game, and you were one of the national reporters that talked about this kid. Put it in perspective for our listeners, what you saw there.
You know, okay, so that's interesting you asked. Put in perspective. So 2 years ago at the Circle K tournament, a kid named Gavin McKenna was, you know, the underage star of the tournament. Last year, it was Landon DuPont, I'd be stunned if he doesn't go first overall when he's eligible. And now you got a kid, this Schultz kid, and you were the one who pointed him out to me. And that game where he scored 4 goals, and we're showing the video right now for those unfortunate enough to be looking at us. This kid he scores the overtime winner in a game in which he scored 4 goals, had 2 assists, ties the game with 0.5 seconds left. That's a game that will be talked about in this city for decades. When it comes to the Circle K tournament, those people who are in that world and fill that rink every game like we do, They will never forget that game. I had people coming up to me days later, and here's the ultimate testament just how powerful it is when you've got a kid who's got this special aura around him and or has a special game like that in particular. I go the next day. My son says, we got to go see that kid, because my son didn't see the end of that game. He goes, we got to go see him. So we go and sit in there, and it's pretty packed in there, but most games are pretty packed at that tournament. A guy sits down next to me midway through the game, just, you can tell he just came in off the street, and he goes, is this the Regina team? And I said, yeah. And he goes, is this the Regina team that has that kid who got 6 points yesterday? So he had just heard about that. That's all he heard about. And he came to the tournament and paid his $20 to get in the door and see this kid. That is testament to you calling it his coming out party. People from Calgary who never heard of him and still may not know his name, but they know that this kid from Regina did that. It was amazing. He was named tournament MVP, and he joins a list of guys like Connor Zary, Michael Backlund. I could go through a whole list of NHLers who were MVPs of this tournament, Zach Parise, and that's a pretty nice little feather in his cap.
It's the interview that we had with him on the Monday Nooner podcast and here on the SportsCage. Timing couldn't have been better, and that's what people are messaging. And just because you know how when you have podcasts and you have views, you can see the views around the world. And I told his dad, I'm like they're legit views everywhere around the world watching this now podcast and interview that we did on this kid. So that timing couldn't have been better for us. The crazy thing to think, Eric, is there is a chance that he plays in this tournament again next year. I got the feeling he's going to exhaust the 34 game rule that they came out with in the Western Hockey League and not go exceptional. That's just me thinking out loud. He could play in this thing again. And I don't know what the records are on a lot of things, but that would be interesting to see.
Well, no one's touching Zach Parise's record. He had something like, I don't remember the numbers, but he played in the tournament a couple of years and put up something like 40 points, with Shattuck. But it's not fair. He's with Shattuck. He's playing with superstars. I sat next to a guy one of the days of the tournament after from the Western Hockey League. He's an executive who's been there for a lot of years. And he said he was the one who told me about that 34 game rule that you were talking about. If a kid plays a full year as a 14-year-old, he can then play a half a year in the WHL. That was news to a lot of people who I was talking to about that. But a lot of people were scratching their heads saying, why isn't this kid applying for exceptional status? And maybe he wasn't thinking of it before. I know he's leading your Saskatchewan league there by 8 points last I saw. But maybe it's a tournament like this where he did open so many eyes and more people are going to say to him, dude, you might have thought it was a little over the top for you to apply for that. But now I think it's pretty clear you probably should. Either way, I agree with you. He'll play at least half a year next year in the dub. And there's a very good chance that whatever dub team he goes to would say to him, look, of these 34 games, we're going to spread them out in a certain way. We want to send you back to a tournament like the Circle K where you can continue to get your feet under you, get confidence and shine and improve yourself. So I think you're right. He might have a very good chance of being back there.
Last thing on the Circle K, I want to ask you, what do you hear them talking about behind closed doors? Because it's always been a contentious point in Saskatchewan where these teams are going, and now we're playing against 19-year-olds or kids that are just turning 19. Like legit, some of the kids on the American teams could have went to Cowboys or the other establishments in Calgary because you only got to be, what's the age? Is it still 18? Yeah.
18, yeah.
It's, I don't know, is there a way to level the playing field a bit? I guess Shattuck's going to say, well, we just won't come. And maybe Bishop Kearney and those teams. It seems weird because there is so many 15 and 16-year-olds. And then now you're playing against kind of men.
Well, first of all, I'm not familiar with this Cowboys you speak of. Second of all, and I know Bidsy's with me on that. He but
I have no idea
but
what he's talking.
What if I would have said ballet?
Yeah. Familiar with that. Anyway, just kidding. Here's the thing. The Shattuck St. Mary's won it. They've never as a matter of fact, I don't think they've ever lost a game and if they have lost a game, it didn't matter because they ended up winning the tournament. They've won the tournament every year they've come to Calgary. And, it's a situation where Shattuck is a big draw, and every game they play is played in front of a very large crowd. And I know that there are people that push back and say, well, why would we come if we're going to just lose to Shattuck? But the Calgary team that played them in the final only lost 1-0. And I think that's a pretty good testament to the fact that, teams are getting closer potentially. But this whole tournament, the Circle K, was designed for the four quadrant teams originally, and now all the school teams from Calgary to play against some of the best players in the world. Let's invite the world to come to the best tournament, and let's go from there. And that's the mantra still. So they're going to always continue to invite the best teams in the world, even if it means nobody else can win the tournament. It's still a great experience for all these Calgary kids.
Okay, let's shift to the NHL.
Hey, I just want to throw something out there.
Okay.
Al McNeil, it was just announced that Al McNeil has passed away. This is a long time. He was a coach in the National Hockey League, won 2 Stanley Cups as head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, and was famous for benching Maurice Richard, and was famous also for playing Ken Dryden right through to winning a Stanley Cup, even though he'd only played like 5 games in the league coming out of college. He passed away today, and I just wanted to throw that out there because this was a real great hockey man, a real great person, and did a whole lot of incredible things in the National Hockey League, including winning 3 Stanley Cups. His third was as assistant general manager of the Flames. So I know there are people in Saskatchewan who know Al. Al has been at the Flames practices every day for the last 20 years I've been here. And one year, I'll tell you a funny story, when they fired Greg Gilbert, they did it just before Christmas, and they didn't have anyone to coach the team. They were pursuing Daryl Sutter, but Sutter was committed to going to the rodeo that year. I think it was the NFR, and he'd never been, and he said, I'm going to the NFR so the Flames can wait for me. So wow. Al McNeil coached the team until Daryl was ready to join the team. So he was willing to take on any role, and he played every role, and he played for 4 of the 6 original 6 teams in the league. So, condolences to his family, but also hats off to a great hockey man.
Yeah. Oh, good, kind words. Yeah. That went quite the resume for Al, for sure.
Oh yeah. 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 Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that in because I didn't.
I'll start and then Bidsy, you want to go, but let's start with what's going on in Vancouver. I talked last week, who's going to win this battle? Is it going to be Elias Pettersson? Is it going to be JT Miller? Are they both going to lose? How does Tocchet navigate this? It's not that Tocchet, he's not dumb. He's as tough as nails. He knows how to run a bench, obviously. You saw what they did last year. How do they get out of this circus ring?
You win games. I think Tocchet said it this morning too. You fill the net and you win games, and then all this stuff goes away. And I don't know if all this stuff is ever going to go away in Vancouver. It's such a cesspool with that fan base they've got there, and the media plays a role in it too, no question. But you know what? Pettersson is a game time decision tonight. He practiced this morning in Montreal. He had a good interview this morning with Sportsnet and talked about how, he admits he hasn't played great. He's got to play better. There's expectations. He's the 5th highest paid player in the National Hockey League. He doesn't even have a point a game this year. So it's been an abysmal season for him, and all these rumors and everything just compounds the issue. Now he's hurt, coming back from an injury. It's such a mess. It's hard to see a way through all this, to me, for Vancouver. And now Demko's got back spasms. It's a never ending saga in Vancouver. I don't see how they cut through all this, because it's always one thing. If it's not one, it's another. And then I don't think the GM handled it all that well when he basically said, yeah, we're looking around, seeing what might be a fit out there for our 2 biggest and best players outside of Quinn Hughes. I think it's an absolute mess. And, take it from someone who watched in Calgary where there was so much drama last year. It really does affect your room. And it's different because Calgary wasn't a contender last year. But, when you've got all this drama and all this chatter, and New York's no different, it does affect the room. And no matter how you think they're going to get out of it, sometimes you just can't. For an entire season, you're just wrecked. And I wonder if that's where the Vancouver Canucks are.
Eric, switching to a glass half full, if you will, or looking at the positive things in the NHL right now. Who's the class of the NHL right now, would you say? I noticed on Sportsnet, on your network's page, they talk about the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I know a lot of people are talking about the Winnipeg Jets maybe at the start of the year. Right now, as we roll into the 2025 year here on this day, who's the class of the NHL do you feel right now?
Yeah, I can't think of a more daunting team to have to play than Vegas. Like if they're not the best team in the league, they're right up there. So I'd answer by saying Vegas. I agree with my colleagues, but mostly because A, they've done it before, but B, they're built for the playoffs. They're just a massive team. That blue line's the biggest in the National Hockey League and one of the toughest in the National Hockey League, and they come with skill as well on the blue line and up front and everywhere. Doesn't seem to matter who plays the net for them. They won the Stanley Cup that year with 5 different guys in net. None of them were stars. Although Aiden Hill, obviously, and Logan Thompson are both showing that they are pretty good goalies in the National Hockey League. I think from top to bottom, the deepest team is Vegas. I think they play in the toughest arena to play in the National Hockey League. And I think they're the ones that make it the toughest arena to play in because of their size and physicality and the fact that they know how to play playoff hockey as well as anybody in the National Hockey League. So I'll go with Vegas.
You would say Vegas is the toughest on opponents? You would say, like, for the opposition coming in, that Vegas is the toughest for them because you've had a chance, obviously, to be in all the rinks around the league?
Yeah, that arena, again, it's the style that they play. It's very punishing because they are so huge. But that rink is it's the loudest rink in the league. I do think it provides probably the best home ice advantage in the league for many reasons, right, guys? Like I think we all predicted when teams go into Vegas, especially, they all have to get in there the night before unless they're on back-to-backs. It's mandated. There's all sorts of things that can, affect your play the next day. The Vegas flu, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a real thing. I know GMs are always, they look at the schedule and like, we're in Vegas on a Saturday night. Oh, this is not good.
Why do our players have all these giant bundles of $1 bills? Why do they need all these giant bundles of $1 bills?
That is what the out-of-town teams need to have happen for the Shattuck boys. They need to go out. They need to try and play guilty the next day. Need to get them out of the town a bit. Well, I love it. That rink, if people haven't gone, the one thing about that rink compared to other NHL rinks, you talk about the atmosphere, that sound system, and it just vibrates. Everything is like, if you're an opposing player, like you feel under the gun. I was at a playoff game there, and I was like, it was their second year. It was like, how did Vegas become a tough place to play? But
is it like that kid that has 45 speakers in his Honda Civic?
Yes.
Is it that
loud? Yeah. $5,000 car, $6,000 sound system. That's exactly the guy I'm talking about.
And everything. The ground effects.
Yeah.
The ground effects.
And he's paying $40 a month at the Brick still until he's like 47 years old. Okay, so you're on your way to Los Angeles and Anaheim. You pick your spots strategically, don't you? Little post-Christmas, start 2025 out in SoCal. What are you looking at there?
Well,
Loaded question.
A high of 22, and I'm, listen, it's cold in Calgary. Let's be honest. It's cold in Saskatchewan. This is a perfect time for an LA Anaheim trip. You know what my motivation was outside of heat and Bonvoy points? My motivation for this trip, pushing for this one, is it's the mom's trip, and don't think dirty. Don't be rude. The trips where they bring their dads or their moms, or now the Leafs are actually doing one right now where they bring their mentors. Like, what are they going to bring? Like their neighbors? How about bring the media who don't travel anymore mostly? There are so many great stories, and I've had this great chat with Mackenzie Weegar's mom before about, you think about all the ups and downs of a young man's career, especially a guy like Weegar who never didn't even make AAA midget, right? Like the heartbreak that these kids go through. The moms they got to live through it. She said there were so many times where he'd be in the back of the car crying, and I'd have tears in my eyes too, but I didn't want him to show that I had tears in the eyes, because my heart was broken for my son at being cut or whatever the case may be, or not drafted as high as he wanted. So anyway, I just love the stories from the moms. I'm looking forward to meeting all the moms and hearing great stories about their kids' childhoods, because there's some great stories there. That would be
a good trip, and just to kind of hear the stories and find out all that. Yeah, there's some other good mentors is a good one.
That's a good one.
Ex-girlfriends would be good. This is what you could have had.
Wait a second.
Or super fans.
When you think about it,
bring the crazy guy that asks for an autograph after every game.
Oh my God. I dare say in the NHL, there's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say it. Every year's ex-girlfriend's trip, depending on what cities you go to. But anyway, the story, have I told you guys the story about Connor Zary, what his dad told me when they were on the dad's trip last year?
No.
A good Sasky boy. I'll tell you this story because I love it. Like, I can't remember what age he was. He couldn't really remember either, but he was just say 13, he thought. And he started working out in the basement, and parents were really impressed. Like, this kid's actually starting to take this seriously. He's working out in the basement, and we start trying to get bigger, and he's like really taking hockey to another level. And one day they went down there, and there was a massive poster of inspirational quotes from like Muhammad Ali and NHLers and stuff, and some pictures, and it was all put together. His printer and put together with hockey tape, like so classic, to make this big poster up against the wall. And the parents thought this was just so cool that he was trying to motivate himself and all this other stuff. It wasn't until years later, and his dad was doing a little cleaning up, and he pulled it off the wall, and he noticed there was a massive hole in the wall. And Connor had put it there with a medicine ball by mistake, and he was terrified for his parents to find out. So it had nothing to do with motivation. It had everything to do with just trying to cover his ass.
That's good.
Redemption.
Yeah. What was the what's the actress that he puts up the picture? Not Farrah Fawcett. It's something. Oh, I love that show. Everybody loves Shawshank.
Not Derek, I don't think. But
oh yeah.
Yeah. So okay. From one, if you're watching the stream, from one quarter zip guy to another. So when you get on the plane, like what do you go ginger ale? Do you get a peanut cookie snack? What does Eric Francis do when he gets on the plane?
Well, I vie often for when they give you the option for the pretzels and the cookie. I don't know if people know this. I shouldn't tell people this, but you can get both. Yeah. So go for both. True. And you just gotta be real friendly and or just ask. And yeah, I'm a ginger ale guy. Yeah, it's probably the only place in the world I drink ginger ale. But on the plane, you're right. It's a good call. I like that.
I was sick over the holidays. My whole family was, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, the only time I drink ginger ale is when I'm sick or when I'm on an airplane. I don't know what makes you at 30,000 feet want ginger ale. But and then there's that little duty free shop that you walk through at the Calgary airport though, and they sell the little bottles now. If a guy wanted to go old school, like when you couldn't afford drinks on a plane, I know they frown upon that, but whatever. They won't know who you are. Yeah.
No, I don't drink on the plane. I've never really liked that. I don't know if it's the altitude or what. I mean, but I find by the time you get to the fifth or sixth drink, it really hits you hard. I find, so I don't do that.
There's no espresso martinis up there.
No.
That high. I know. It's okay. Okay, well, have fun on the mom's trip with the Flames and all that, and then you're gonna catch up with Maz on Wednesday.
Okay, boys. You have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week then.
Right on. For Southie Mainline Chrysler, the new king of trucks in Southie, Saskatchewan. NHL insider Eric Francis. Time for a quick break. When we come back, more SportsCage. Bidsy and Shank, Colson and Allen. Lots of fun. Streaming at sportscage.com. This is for Kellen Solar on Mondays. Derek Bidwell, Barney Shynkaruk, Colson and Allen with you. Can we go now? Are we going to do the clutch performer? This is, I don't know if you've got one, Bidsy. Allen's kind of got one. I can actually.
The sheriff?
I can mention Allen's if he doesn't want to hop on. Okay. Sometimes he gets shy. It is clutch performer time for Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Call 781-1077. The fine folks at Nick's Service will get you hooked up. A lot of guys probably thinking about seeding season right now. You're going to get busy over there at Nick's Service. Okay, so if you're watching the stream, you're in for a treat. Because this is mine. My clutch performer is a man by the name of Nikita Dinyak. He's playing hockey over in Europe. I think it's the KHL. If you're watching the stream, here it is. We're going to play it again. He skates up the ice. Nothing wrong here. Something falls out of his pants. The ref goes to the bench with a cell phone. Cell phone fell out of his pants mid-professional hockey game in Europe. Nikita Dinyak. What a baller. Wonder if that's his burner phone.
For his side business over there.
If you're watching the stream, you saw it. That's why it's always good to watch the stream here. That is anyone else got one? Okay, Alan's going to go. Alan's going to paint the picture for you guys because we don't have the video of this one.
Basically, it was the Dallas Cowboys game. The kicker unfortunately shanked the ball, and it hit a poor Dallas Cowboys cheerleader off the dome, but she bounced right back up and was ready to go.
Good one. Good clutch performer. Did you see that video? She takes it right in the dome. Doesn't see it coming either. And she continued.
I just love the sheriff's description. And she took her in the dome, but then she bounced right back up. Was not worse for wear. Stayed in the game.
That's right. Back on to the next cheer or whatever.
That cell phone thing reminded me of remember the flip phone celebration in the NFL?
Yeah.
The guy had it under the goalpost padding. That was Joe Horn, I think, after he scored a touchdown in New Orleans for the Saints. And then he went under there and he used the flip phone and he flipped it open and he was making a call, I guess, or something after he scored the touchdown, which I think led to them not being able to use props, I believe it's.
Yeah, I don't get this, and I'd like to know the situation that Nikita needed his cell phone in his hockey pants.
There's no way he was taking a call or checking it on the bench, I don't think. I mean, your coach would.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it just fell in his equipment, and then he went out there, and then it fell out again.
Yeah, that could be. If we're building a case, if you're on the defense team, that could work. That could work.
Yeah.
Not sure if he's a married man or what. Like I said, it'd be funny if that was his burner. I don't know.
It was funny in the video, for those that haven't seen it, you can check it out, though, is that at first his teammates the ref comes over to the bench with the phone, and his teammates are like, not ours, theirs, it's theirs. And he points to the other bench, and then he leans forward and, no, that's mine. I'll take it.
Nikita's like, yeah. Don't look through those messages. Don't look through those pictures.
Yeah.
That's quiet. That is our clutch performer. Nick's Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. We will take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some curling. We're going out on the pebbled ice, as they say. It is a Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on the home of sports in Saskatchewan, 620 CKRM. Hey, we're back. Colson and Alan and myself here in the Regina studio, Bidsy, the corner of 12th and Rose. If you ever drive by, honk and wave, give us a thumbs up or the finger. It doesn't matter. Just acknowledge that you're here.
Number one, right? The index number one.
Yes. It is so cold in the studio today.
Wow.
Colson says it's sitting at 20. I don't know if it's on the other side of where we are. Like, we need to call Bronco Plumbing and Heating and get him in here. There's no way it's 20 degrees. And Alan is basically saying it's hot. Like, look at me. I'm in if you're watching the stream, I'm in a 3/4 zip fall golf. And the reason I wore this today, and I wore an undershirt, obviously, because I'm not no undershirt guy. I was like, in case it's really cold again, I need to have something warm to wear, and I don't want to wear another hoodie. And I'm glad I did, because like my hands are freezing right now.
Oh, it's like a Vegas casino in there.
No. Like it feels like the furnace went out. That's what it feels like.
That's cool. Okay. Because Vegas casinos are cool. You keep the air AC.
I don't remember Vegas casinos being. They want you comfortable.
No, I think it's when you're colder that it keeps you more awake.
The sales seminars you go to, they try and keep rooms cold. That's an old sales seminar trick. Try and get you to buy a RCI or a timeshare for when you go in your cheer competitions.
Or cable.
Yes,
sign up for a cable pack.
Yeah,
I have.
Hey, Mr. Bidwell, we'd like to offer you the 300 channel pack. Ooh, I'm interested. Hold on, I'm just reading the paper. Can I call you back?
Yeah, exactly. While you're out there, bring in the Star Phoenix if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I love it. Derek's living in 1997, and I want to go back there really bad. We gotta hang out more. Okay, let's go out. Hey, we said we're gonna talk some curling. Western pizza, all the Greek favorites you like, perfect pizza, souvlaki ribs, the whole 9 yards. You just can't make that goodness at home. Call your local Western Pizza today. From Curling, Saskatchewan, Steve Turner is joining us on the program. Sorry to keep you waiting, Steve. I had to rant about my cold studio here.
No problem whatsoever.
Do you know
curling rink there?
Yeah, you know what? It would have been really cold in some of these small town curling rinks over the last week as they were grinding it out. Maybe not so much in the small towns, but the fields are set now. We got 18 teams that are going to represent Saskatchewan to try and get to the Brier and Tournament of Hearts, Steve. So things are pretty much set on your end, and we're just getting ready for Kindersley.
Oh, we are so excited. We can't wait to get there and kick this off.
I was at the Red Lion in Kindersley actually on Saturday. True story. I was there for a hockey tournament. That city will be buzzing because both the men and the women are in Kindersley this year. Just explain to people how that's going to go down. What are they using for ice surfaces? I suspect they're using the West Central Event Center.
They certainly are. So it'll be home to the Clippers. So we're going to take it over for almost a couple weeks here. It's going to be 9 men, 9 women's teams competing. We've kind of adjusted our format over the last couple years with 9 teams in each division, we're mirroring as close as we can to what they can expect at the Brier or at the Scotties. So it'll be a full round robin in each of those divisions. The playoffs will be slightly different because at the national events, there's actually 18 teams for both men and women. So we wanted to do something a little bit differently, but to help our teams prepare for the success at that next level.
So are they both running at the same time, or is like the men going and then the women? Or are they both all in the mixer at once?
You know what? It's both at the same time. So we're going to have 4 draws a day. It'll be men, then women, and then vice versa. So it's going to be it'll be a marathon for all of us involved. The players aren't playing any more than they normally would, but for the rest of us and the volunteers and broadcasts and ice makers, it's a marathon. For sure.
Is there some sort of a beer gardens Brier patch kind of step? What are you guys setting up there? We're using that lounge upstairs in Kinder. That's a real nice lounge, but it can't hold as many people as one would probably want for an event like this.
Oh, there will be no shortage of beer at this event, and it'll spill over into the curling club. So that'll be up in their lounge. There will be the patch as well.
Literally,
great idea.
Figuratively, it will spill over.
Great idea. You know where the best curling lounge I've ever had a pint and fell on the ice and almost broke my elbow? The Currabber Curling Club. Oh. They have a great little tavern up top. You go to the hockey rink in there, and that's only like 25 minutes away from Kindersley. So, okay, I don't want to get sidetracked because we've already talked about wonton soup and concessions earlier in the program. This is the first year, or ever been in. Dave Thomas was talking to me about this, that Saskatchewan will have 2 representatives at the Brier, regardless.
It is the first time, we're thrilled with this. So Team McEwen, having already qualified based on their results from last year, it's waiting to have another team join them. So the fact that we're going to have 2 Saskatchewan teams at the Brier, battling out to get Team Canada to have the Worlds in Moose Jaw later on at the end of March.
Yeah, the Worlds are in Moose Jaw. Speaking of places to have a beer and watch curling, that's going to be juicy as well. Okay, and then am I off my rocker here? Are we seeing a 16-year-old try and win the province on the men's side? Like, he can't even go to the curling club tavern or whatever we're calling it.
No, you know what? This past weekend in Swift Current, we had our men's last chance qualifier, and in Nipawin, we had the women's last chance. And one of the teams Dirksen, is one of our under 20 teams, and their second, Tyler Dirksen, is a ripe old age of 16. So we've been combing through some of our archives, and we have yet to find a competitor that would be younger than Tyler.
Wow. Tyler won't be at school this week. He's at the men's tankard in Kindersley. Yeah. That's an awesome one to send. Sorry, Bids, go ahead.
I was going to say, and the other teams might be doing whatever they do when they're not playing, but he'll be doing his homework. So he'll be the only guy there in that scenario. Okay, so we always hear about...
hold on. Hopefully you guys take care of him up there. There's going to be that one. There's all that. I love this story. I'm going to follow this story for the whole week.
Don't worry. We got him.
If we have to write a note to his teacher, we'll just put it on Curl Sask letterhead. It's no problem. I'll sign that any day.
There we go.
They know where he is. So are you saying now with two representatives on the men's side that this will end the drought? You're saying it's guaranteed Saskatchewan will finally win the Brier? Is that what we're saying?
Let's just say, I don't know if I'll go as far as guarantee, but we have a really good feeling coming into this year. Absolutely.
So you're saying there's a chance. There's
a chance. Absolutely.
Remember, it's a numbers game, Bidsy. We talked about this with hockey. So we just increased our odds.
Yeah, we doubled it up.
And we can definitely sprinkle. This is good. We can keep bringing you on here to chat curling as we get ready for things in Kindersley. When does it start again, Kindersley?
So it kicks off January 21st. Through the 26th. So tickets are available right on Curl Sask website, curlsask.ca.
If we didn't just paint the picture on how much fun it's going to be in Kindersley from the 21st to 26th, like, unless you're going to Mexico or Vegas or somewhere fun, like, this could be the best place to go take a few holiday days and watch some curling and have a good old time in Kindersley.
Well worth it. Oh, yeah, well worth it. It's going to be a fantastic event.
For those that maybe want to join, and don't kid yourself, I might throw this out there to the missus, see what she thinks about going to Kindersley for this thing. Have you heard anything about hotels or availability or anything like that, where they're at with that? I would assume that they're probably filled right up.
They're filling up quickly, absolutely. There's probably still some rooms available, but I know like the whole town is rallying behind this. So businesses, the hotels, everybody is excited about this coming up. Oh. Yeah, absolutely.
Saskatchewan curling volunteers, easy. Oh, and there'll be some VRBO, some of those big oil tycoon houses out there, and they got extra wings and rooms and all that. Okay, we got to let you go. Thanks so much, Steve. Let's maybe chat in a week or so as we get closer to Kindersley.
Sounds great. I'd love to.
Right on. Steve Turner, Curling Saskatchewan, talking Brier representatives, Tournament of Heart representatives. It's going to get real out in that Kindersley. I'm just suspecting Roscoe is going to text in any moment saying that he's offering up, he's got a couch for us to sleep on, Bidsy, if we end up in Kindersley. I'd go do a live show in Kindersley for sure. I was literally just at the Red Lion 36 hours ago.
Yeah.
That's the place. That's a hot spot. And they have great wonton soup, I'm told, as well.
Okay.
Yeah, everything circles back to wonton soup on this Monday program. The Sports Cage for Kellen Solar, Barney Shynkaruk, Derek Bidwell, Colson, and Allen. It is up against news. When we come back, it's Darian Durant We're going to talk CFL, but we are going to get into the NFL with the former Rider legend, the Sports Cage. We are streaming at sportscage.com. Hey, last hour of the program on this Monday. Barney, Shynkaruk, Derek Bidwell, Colson, and Allen. Darian Durant coming up in a little bit here. Bidsy and I are going to get a little NFL talk with him and some CFL. And then later in this hour, if you missed our chat from hour one with Greg Wyshynski from ESPN on the USA hockey team winning the World Juniors again, and just the USA hockey model and where that is right now, and why it seems very attractive to maybe look at that model when it comes to Canada. Some people are thinking. It was a great chat in hour one. We'll have that again. Hockey-wise around the area tonight, no SJHL games. Weyburn won 3-2 over the Terriers Sunday, snapping the Terriers' winning streak. Angelo Zoll made 29 saves in that one. We got the SJHL report coming up tomorrow with Benny Walchuk for Southie Mainline Chrysler. No games at the AAA or the U18 Women's Worlds. Canada still undefeated. They play the Czechs tomorrow. No games in the Junior B Loop. One game when it comes to senior, Wattresses and Leroy, Long Lake style, 8 p.m. A nice night to watch a little puck in Leroy, Saskatchewan. WHL, Pats, they lost 5-2 in Calgary yesterday. They're in Moose Jaw Friday. Home to Portland tomorrow are the Regina Pats. No WHL games this evening. And 4 games in the NHL. Canucks, Montreal, Washington, Buffalo, Florida, Colorado. That's a doozy. And the Devils against the Kraken. So there's a quick little rundown of what we got going on here. And if you're thinking about sprinkling, Bidsy, on that Watrous Leroy game tonight, Leroy, the favorite at minus 143. So probably best taking play the over-under. It's set at 10. That's what I would do if you're going a cool bet to sprinkle on a little senior hockey action.
There you go. I want to use a tiny little opportunity here, though, as well, to do a shout-out to, you mentioned the SJHL. Trevor Blevins, a shout-out to him and the Melfort Mustangs. I went and watched them play on Friday night in Melfort. Hit the Venice House in Melfort before we went to the game. Murphy's Pub, the Venice House there. Mm-hmm. And shout out to the folks there. They're real, real nice to us. And and then watched the game. It was a victory for the Mustangs, shutting out Melville there. They sure are enjoying a great season. So props to Trevor Blevins and that crew in Melfort.
And the staff at the Venice House in Melfort, which I'm sure they have an awesome French onion soup when it's minus 35 out. That would have been what you wanted on that menu on that cold Saskatchewan evening. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Speaking of a good night for a little grub from somewhere other than your kitchen where you have to cook, Western Pizza, all the Greek favorites and the awesome pizza that's known around the world. Darian Durant is joining us. I was going to start NFL, but we could start CFL. Darian, it's starting today. NFL teams can start signing CFL players to like future contracts for next season and this and that. And I know up in Canada here, we always get excited when a guy gets a look, right? Because he's one of ours. Even though if he's not Canadian, he's one of ours. He's going to have a shot. What makes it so difficult to transition for the top athletes up here? And a lot of them just played college ball in the States a few years ago, but just what makes it so hard to break through? Is it that notoriety piece?
I think so. I think it's a little bit of the notoriety. And I think that, there's still some executives in the NFL that question the level of football that, guys play in the CFL. And even though there's a history of guys going from the CFL to the NFL and having a huge impact and, showing some longevity, it's still that question mark. And then you add on top of that, guys come up here, they play for a couple years. They may, be a little up there in age. And if you can get a guy coming straight out of college who's 22, 23 years old and cheaper, you're always going to go for that younger guy. So it's always an uphill climb, but, guys make it each and every year. And if you just keep at it, I think we can just continue to open eyes of executives down there, and they'll see that there's a pretty decent pipeline from the CFL down to the NFL.
I agree with you totally there, Darian. I was going to ask, though, is there a bit of a size factor as well, too? I don't mean so much on the offense. I think our offensive linemen are proportionate maybe in size. Maybe they are a little bit bigger in the NFL. I think our receivers are tall. There's a big, factor that they want to make sure that the receivers are tall in the NFL, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". We have tall receivers here as well. But it seems on the defense maybe that there is a bit of a difference in size, if you will, and correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe some of our linebackers, they would feel are more of the size. They're kind of caught in between. They're in between an NFL linebacker and an NFL defensive back and a Canadian linebacker. There's you know what I mean? There's just some size things, maybe a little bit more on the defensive side, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I think you can kind of compare that to the quarterback position a little bit too. Most of your CFL quarterbacks are between 5'11" and 6'1", and not your prototypical guy. And the same with the linebackers. They're maybe a strong safety type of NFL build are the CFL linebackers. And when you're dealing with guys up front in the NFL, they're 320, 330 pounds. It makes a difference. And if you're a smaller linebacker, those type of things can be to your disadvantage. And, like you said, for the defensive side of the ball, mostly it's just a size thing. We compared it to, Boise State playing against Ohio State in the, in the bowl games in college football. And it's kind of like that when you look at some of the defensive players in the CFL trying to make that transition down south.
Do you guys, like, a lot of times we think, as I find anyway, up here in the CFL, and we remember, Doug Flutie and, Jeff Garcia went down, had, like, Cameron Wake. Like, can ESPN do like a 30 for 30 on that guy's career? Like, I don't remember, like, did you guys cross paths, Darian?
Absolutely. He was a year or two younger than me. So my first year starting was his rookie year. So I was there for the entire Cam Wake CFL experience. And let me tell you, he's a freak of nature, but you don't find a lot of guys like that, right? Every once in a while, there are a couple guys who fly under the radar, may not get the type of look that they deserve. And look, Cam Wake went to Penn State. If you look at these Penn State athletes and defensive guys that they produce every year, if you're a late bloomer, you may not be able to play until your senior year, and you may be overlooked when it comes to the eyes of NFL scouts. And he's a prime example of a guy who just was overlooked and came to the CFL and showed what he's worth. Now, he's a specimen, man. He's not your typical, CFL defensive end and the size of those guys. He's a freak of nature. And he went down south and showed exactly, the havoc that he could reap when he gets going.
And then why am I drawing a blank here? He won a Super Bowl with my New England Patriots with defensive back from the Stamps.
Brandon Browner. Brandon Browner.
Browner.
Yes.
Who now, unfortunately, is
there you go.
Not a free man. I don't.
He's incarcerated now, but he's another freak of nature. He's a 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" DB who runs a 4.3 4.4. You don't see that a lot, and as you can see, he's kind of had a troubled past, and that may have went into the eyes of some of these NFL teams. They didn't want to, some red flags may have presented itself. And, but Bill Belichick is always a guy who showed that he'd gamble on guys with, checkered past. And he got a Super Bowl out of them. And, kudos to Bill.
Another good one that was out there, too, that had a good career, though, recently, too. Alex Singleton with the Stampeders, linebacker with the Stampeders, then went down to the NFL, played very, very well in the system for the Philadelphia Eagles, and now with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, he was a beast too, man. I was able to cross paths with Alex as well, and actually was able to sit down and talk with him a little bit at the CFL preseason thing when they bring in all the guys from different teams. He's a great guy, and he's another freak of nature, man. These guys, they're few and far between, but once you find them and they go down south, you can see why they're able to make noise.
Man, I just looked up Browner. and because I now remember the start, he's in San Quentin. He's doing real time.
Oh, wow.
He's doing real time, boys. No no Super Bowl ring up in there.
Yeah.
Attempted murder charge. Yeah. Wow, that things went south there. Yeah. No, it's it'll be interesting. Like when you were playing, and some of the guys on the offensive side of the ball, when you were playing, Darian, and you look back and go, maybe if that guy would have just had someone that believed in him down there, like who would have been the guy that you think would have transitioned well to the American game?
The guy that sticks out for me is a Darius Bowman. I mean, he's 6'4", about 215, can run, jump, do everything you can ask of an athlete, especially a receiver. But he just wasn't mature enough at the time. Went through some things, and he was the number one receiver coming out of his class at Oklahoma State. Put up the most yards in I think Oklahoma State history at that point in time over Des Bryant. And he's a guy that there's no doubt in my mind. If he didn't have some of the off the field issues that he had, he would be a 10, 12-year NFL receiver. He built like Terrell Owens, just a smooth guy, and he's the guy for me.
What does the NFL do? Has it changed much more in how they look or how they scout the Canadian Football League? Did you get much as far as rumblings, or did you hear a lot about it's probably different than hockey, where you can see the guys up in the stands. Oh, there's the scouts. They're all up there with the notepads and all. But is it changed in the last few years of how the NFL scouts the Canadian Football League?
Yeah, I think more so now the NFL is looking at guys who play stationary positions, like your corner, your field corner, or your boundary corner, or your receiver who doesn't have the waggle. I mean, they want guys who could easily transfer over to that NFL game. And that's not to take anything away from your slot receivers who get the running start. But in the NFL, they want you to come in and play right away. They don't have time for a developmental system. They need guys to step in and fill roles. So they're looking for guys who are playing the exact same type of position that they will play down south.
All right, let's shift it to the NFL game, and the bracket is set. The tournament, as they say. If you look at some of these matchups, Darian, okay, first off, my question, which is the most intriguing to you?
You know what? I want to say the Rams and the Vikings. And I just say this because the Rams, barely over 500 or right there at it. And here come the Vikings. They're at 14-3. They have to go across the country. They're definitely going to be at a disadvantage. That's the most intriguing game for me because you bust your butt all year. You pull out 14 NFL wins. You have to go on the road for the playoffs. So, and they're going against a tough, LA Rams team. So that's the most intriguing matchup for me. I don't think it'll be the most interesting game, but I just think for the fact that the Vikings record is what it is, for them to have to go on the road, that doesn't sit well with me.
And that's one of the only teams that beat them. 30-20 back on October 24th. Yeah. And it's like, hey, you guys won 14 games. Your reward is you have to go play in Los Angeles. Like it's baffling that there's a wild card team with 14 wins, and then they have to go on the road. Like it shakes.
Yeah, the NFL definitely has to go and revisit this thing because if you're in a tough, you can't help that you're in a tough division. And if you're in a bad division, you win a bad division, you get rewarded with the whole playoff game. I just don't think that's fair at all.
Okay, what team does Darian Durant think can kind of come from way left field, come through the back door, and make that kind of Cinderella-ish run? If there was one team on that board, who would it be?
Excuse me, I would say the LA Chargers. I think that the way they're built, Jim Harbaugh, physical, run the ball, any type of weather, any type of environment football team, those are the teams that scare me. So, whenever you're well coached, And coaching gets so overlooked in the playoffs, situational football, when to take field goals, when to go for it. I think Jim Harbaugh is the best situational coach in the National Football League. And don't be surprised if the Rams make some noise. I mean, Justin Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I think that this is the perfect opportunity for him.
You're right about Harbaugh. You can't sleep on him, man. Wherever he goes, what program he goes to, if you want to go all the way back to when he was with Stanford, and of course he goes to the NFL, the 49ers. I mean, Harbaugh just gets everyone to buy in, and he makes everybody feel like this is a family, and they always improve. But
he seems super weird. Exactly. He seems like the weird uncle. Like his pants are always riding. His pants are riding up a little too high. His khakis. He's got his golf shirt tucked in, and he always wants to he's still just youthful, exuberance, whatever it's called. But anyways,
what I've learned throughout my history is that some of the best coaches ever are the weirdest guys. So, they don't have anything else going on. They're just all about football and just being weird. So they're some of the best.
Yeah, Jim checks a lot of those boxes. Like Barney said, his khakis sometimes are a little too high. The inseam is not long enough or something. What's going on there? And he's got his glasses. Like sometimes he looks like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys with those big prescription glasses. He's an interesting fella. Season comes to an end. I love this story. I wanted to ask you about this, Darian, and I'm sure you would have gotten the ball to this guy if he was one of your receivers, but I love this story. Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He goes into the final game of the season. He needs 5 receptions for 85 yards to get a $3 million bonus and be the man that ties Jerry Rice for an 11th straight 1,000-yard season. 85 yards, 5 receptions, $3 million bonus, breaks that 1,000-yard mark again, and he gets it on the final play of the regular season. Breaks 1,000 yards, $3 million bonus. I'm sure he's probably taking out Baker Mayfield for a steak dinner after that one.
Yeah, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I need 1%. I need about 10, at least 10, 10 to 20% of that. I mean, but no, this is just amazing for Mike. He's just shown that, when an organization sticks with you and is behind you, they're going to get the best out of you, and to, spend so much time with one organization. And, a lot of teams, they don't care about these incentives, or they'll be on the opposite end of that, and they'll make sure that he doesn't get these incentives. So, kudos to the Bucs and that organization for just being stand up and taking care of one of their guys, because whenever you can have a guy that's committed like Mike Evans, you want to reward him. So that's big for him.
Any of the coaching situations puzzle you or surprise you yet? For me, it's Gerard Mayo in New England, kind of a one and done deal. It's like, what did you expect him to do with a big bag of what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, maybe he just wasn't their guy in the first place, or there's some behind the scenes things going on that they're not, letting out. But I don't understand that. And, I'm just looking at the Chicago Bears job as well. And to me, it's like, what coach would want to go into that situation with the Lions and the Vikings and Green Bay and all 3 playoff teams, all double-digit win teams. You're just putting yourself behind the 8 ball. Coaching already is an occupation that you're not guaranteed, longevity. So going into that job, it just seems as if you're going to fail because of the teams in that division.
Now, the NFL, of course, as we hear people say this, like you said, Darian, job security not there. NFL stands for not for long if you're not winning. But somehow Brian Daboll manages to stay in New York with the New York Giants. I don't get this one. Your thoughts on it, Darian? I thought this was going to be a slam dunk that they were going to move on from him, but he sounds like they're going to stick with him for another year. And right now the Giants are like, they're embarrassing. They got to be, they let Saquon Barkley go, and you all know what he did in Philadelphia. And the decisions they're making now just seem asinine, really, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And lucky for, Daboll, he doesn't pick the players. So I think you have to look at the front office and blame them the situation of the Giants. I mean, Dayball has shown that he's a good coach. He led that team to the playoffs a few years ago. I don't think he's the problem. It's just a personnel thing. I mean, they have pieces. They drafted Neighbors. It looks like they're in the market for a quarterback. And I think if they can get a couple pieces, they'll be fine. But that front office, everyone from, aside from the CEO, everyone on down before the head coach needs to go, because, whatever that decision to let Saquon Barkley go and then to have it on Hard Knocks, it just makes it 10 times worse. And you can never recover from that. They have you, in your office saying that you think this guy is washed up or he doesn't deserve the money. I mean, there's no coming back from that. You can't expect to get another job when you make a fumble like that. So,
that's a good point. He's a good
coach, but, the front office has to go.
That Hard Knocks thing, I'm surprised more guys don't put their foot in their mouth like that. Okay, so what's the word from your UNC people now that Bill Belichick's kind of there? He's been a few weeks. Have you talked to him? You reached out and said, "Hey, Bill, I need an autograph for my buddy Barney in Regina."
No, I texted our longtime media guy there, Kevin Best, and told him to say what's up to Coach for me. And we're all looking forward to going back in April for the spring game. I think you'll see, tons of alumni from all the years in the past, man. It'll be like a big reunion. So we're looking forward to it. We're picking up some good players. He's going to bring that NFL pedigree. And I think that especially the local guys, there's so many guys in the states of North Carolina and South Carolina who end up going all over the country to play for other schools. So I think that, the top guys, they'll stay right there in state and go with Coach Belichick, because especially on the defensive side of the ball, he puts them in the league. He's a known defensive coach, and I think it'll be good for us.
Going to be real interesting how it plays out. All right, Doubles. We will regroup next Monday after the first weekend of NFL games. It's going to be real interesting. We'll chat with you in 7 days from now.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, pal.
Rider legend, Darian Durant, here on the Sports Cage. Getting to it. We'll take a quick break. Barney, Shynkaruk, Derek Bidwell, Coulson, and Allen. It is the Sports Cage. We are streaming at sportscage.com. NFL lives at the Canadian Brew House. You get all your NFL action specials daily. And we got a full slate coming up. Visit the CanadianBrewHouse.com. 2 locations in Regina and 1 in Moose Jaw. Bidsy, stay on the NFL train for a brief moment here. Did you hear Tyreek Hill's comments after the game yesterday, the loss to the Jets?
You know what? I heard about it, and then every time I've had a chance to listen to them today, I haven't been able to. Here in the studio in Saskatoon, it came up just a little while ago, and I couldn't turn up the volume. So I know I heard about them. I know what he was saying, but I haven't heard the words come out of his mouth.
If you're watching the stream, here it is in radio, you'll be able to hear it. Here is Tyreek Hill after the loss yesterday.
How do you feel about not getting to 1,000 yards this season?
Man, it is what it is, man. It's life, man. I feel like at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that, I need to reassess, about, my career and, just see what I need to do, to continue to get better, as a player. So I can continue to reach that 1,000-yard mark. So,
as a captain, what is the message you have to these guys in the off season, and you won't feel this at the end of the season next year?
I don't even know, bro. This is my first time. I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here or that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, I'm out, bro. So it was great playing here, but at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for for my career and what's best, because I'm too much of a competitor to be just
that mean
it's out there.
Mean you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, yes.
Oh, jeez. Oh yeah.
Tyreek doesn't come across as the
intelligent.
With a huge IQ. Not very well spoken. Great football player. Doesn't speak very well.
He's fast. Yeah, I'll give him that. He's fast. But
I mean, you'd want him on your team if you could just focus on that.
It depends on what the price tag is and what is.
Oh, for sure.
That guy in my locker room, like when you win the lottery and you're buying an SJHL team, if I ever had a football team, I wouldn't want that guy in my locker room. He's like an Antonio Brown.
I agree. I don't want his attitude. I just said if he could focus on football, I want his talent. I would like a guy that's his talent. Like if he was a robot without the personal issues and his attitude. Yeah, I would want his talent, his speed, what he could bring to a team. But no, I wouldn't want that attitude either. And he's talking about what's best for his family and all that. Well, I guess Tyreek's got to look up. Tyreek apparently has a lot of kids. So so he may need the extra bucks. I don't know. I think it's in the double digits. I'm not sure. But
it's and it like the 24-hour rule that you teach hockey parents. I'm sure lots of sporting parents give it 24 hours, then let's talk. Like to say that after a game, you are an absolute donkey.
What? For sure, high on the donkey radar. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say too that I think before you go, Colson, I was just going to say I think he started. You could almost tell that he was going down the road that he didn't know how to say it, and then he was going down, and then you could almost tell that the words were coming out of his mouth, but he probably realized they shouldn't have been. Sorry, go ahead, Colson.
I'm out.
Exactly. Yeah, funny you mentioned Antonio Brown because Tyreek Hill's ex Twitter profile picture is now his head photoshopped on top of Antonio Brown's body when he left the Buccaneers.
Classic.
In the middle of that game. So that's funny.
Classic. No hockey in the area tonight. No SJ games. No WHL. No AAA midget. No female. No junior B. 4 games in the NHL. 1 senior loop in Leroy. Watchers is in town. Don't forget to text Dangler. DANGLER. Anyone in the senior loop that deserves a shout out for Dangler of the week, and you get a chance to win a $100 gift card to the Canadian Brew House. We talked to him earlier in the show, Bidsy, on USA Hockey winning the gold medal. We had a good time on that. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. We are going to replay that interview for you here. Anything closing that you wanted to say, Bids?
No, it's just an honor again, once again, to be on the show with
You're full of what. I almost said the word on the air.
And a shout out to the sheriff. I haven't done a show with the sheriff in a while, so shout out to him in the Queen City. I know he's kind of a shy guy, doesn't talk that often.
He's sitting with his sheriff outfit on, and he's got a toothpick in, and he can do that toothpick roll thing that all good sheriffs can do in the movies. That's what he's leaning back. I'm painting the picture, leaning back in his sheriff outfit, toothpick, and he's doing the toothpick roll just with his tongue.
And his sheriff badge, and he looks kind of like either a sheriff or a Razor Ramon. He's doing a Razor Ramon imitation, maybe.
Black boots up on the counter. He's leaning back. That's how he does it. Yeah, when we come back, we'll take a quick break. We'll go back and revisit from ESPN, Greg Wyshynski. It is the All New SportsCage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM.